I never thought a routine haircut would save my life, or that the person who wanted me dead was sleeping next to me every night. My name is Sarah Bennett. I'm 34 years old, and I've been married to Marcus for 8 years. He's a financial advisor, one of those guys who always seems to have everything under control, confident, successful, the kind of man who remembers anniversaries and brings home flowers for no reason. Then there's Rosa Delgado, my hairstylist. She's in her mid-40s, runs a small salon in downtown Portland, and over the past 3 years, she's become more than just the person who cuts my hair. She's become someone I trust. It was a regular Tuesday afternoon when I walked into Rosa's salon. Nothing felt different. I needed a trim before Marcus and I left for our anniversary trip to Hawaii. I sat in her chair, and we talked about the usual stuff: work, life, the vacation I was excited about. When I finished paying and grabbed my coat, Rosa moved closer. She pressed something into my pocket, a piece of paper, folded tight. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Don't open it here. Wait until you're home. Alone." My heart stopped. I looked at her face, searching for answers, but all I saw was fear in her eyes. She glanced toward the door like someone might walk in any second. I nodded. I didn't know what else to do. I walked out of that salon with my stomach in knots, my hand gripping that piece of paper through my coat pocket like it was a bomb. Before we go any further, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single one. Let me back up and tell you about my life before that note. From the outside, everything looked perfect. Marcus and I lived in a nice house in the suburbs. White picket fence, 2-car garage, the whole dream. I worked as a marketing consultant, and he had his own practice managing investments for wealthy clients. We met 9 years ago at a charity fundraiser. He was charming, made me laugh, and from our first conversation, he made me feel like I was the only person in the room. We got married a year later. For the first few years, things were great. We traveled, we talked about starting a family, we built a life together. He was supportive of my career, always asking about my projects, always interested. I thought I'd found my person. But about 6 months ago, things started to shift. Marcus began working late, a lot. He'd come home after 9, sometimes 10 at night, looking exhausted. When I asked about it, he'd kiss my forehead and say he was closing big deals, that it would all be worth it soon. Around the same time, he started this new routine. Every night before bed, he'd make me herbal tea. He said it was for my stress, that I seemed tired and needed to relax more. It was sweet, really. He'd bring it to me on the couch, sit with me while I drank it, ask about my day. But then I started feeling sick. At first, it was just fatigue. I'd wake up exhausted, even after 8 hours of sleep. Then came the nausea. I couldn't keep food down some mornings. My stomach felt like it was constantly churning. I lost weight, almost 15 pounds in 2 months. My hair started thinning. I'd find clumps of it in the shower drain. I went to my doctor, Dr. Harrison. She ran blood tests, checked everything. The results came back inconclusive. She said it might be anxiety, that stress can do strange things to the body. She suggested therapy, maybe some lifestyle changes. Marcus was so concerned. He'd hold my hand during the doctor visits, rub my back when I felt nauseous, make sure I took my vitamins, and every night, without fail, he'd bring me that tea. "Drink up, sweetheart," he'd say. "You need to take care of yourself." So I did. I trusted him. Now, Rosa. I started going to her salon 3 years ago. A friend recommended her, said she was great with color. That first appointment, we clicked immediately. Rosa has this warm energy, the kind of person who actually listens when you talk. Over time, our appointments became less about hair and more about life. I told her things I didn't tell anyone else, about work frustrations, about my mom's health problems, about the little cracks I was starting to see in my marriage. 2 weeks before she gave me that note, I mentioned Marcus's tea routine to her. I was sitting in her chair, and I said something like, "At least Marcus is being sweet. He makes me this herbal tea every night, says it'll help with the stress." Rosa's hands stopped moving. I saw her face in the mirror. Her expression changed. It wasn't obvious, but I noticed. Her smile faded for just a second. She didn't say anything, just nodded and kept cutting my hair. I didn't think much of it then. But now, sitting in my car outside her salon with that note burning a hole in my pocket, I remembered that moment. The way her face changed, the silence that followed. The drive home took 20 minutes. It felt like 20 hours. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I kept reaching for the note, then stopping myself. Rosa said to wait until I was home. Alone. There had to be a reason for that. Every red light felt like torture. My mind was spinning through possibilities. Was Rosa in some kind of trouble? Did this have something to do with Marcus? Was I in danger? I pulled into my driveway. Marcus's car wasn't there. He was at the gym, his usual Tuesday routine. I had maybe an hour before he got back. I unlocked the front door, threw my keys on the counter, and went straight to the bathroom. I locked the door behind me even though I was alone in the house. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I sat down on the edge of the bathtub and pulled out the note. My hands were trembling so badly I almost couldn't unfold it. And then I read it. The note was written in Rosa's handwriting. I recognized it from the appointment cards she always filled out for me. Her letters were careful and neat, the kind of handwriting that comes from someone who takes their time. But I could see places where the pen had pressed harder, like she'd been scared while writing it. The message was short, but every word felt like a punch to my chest. Your husband Marcus came to me 3 weeks ago. He asked if I knew anyone who could get untraceable poison, said he wanted to handle a problem quietly. He offered me $15,000. When I refused, he asked me to put something in your hair products instead, said you'd never suspect. I told him I'd do it, but I haven't. I couldn't. You need to leave him. Please be safe. Don't tell him about this note. I read it once, then twice, then 3 more times. The words didn't change. They just sat there on that piece of paper, destroying everything I thought I knew about my life. My hands went numb. I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. The bathroom walls seemed to close in around me, and for a second, I thought I might pass out. I slid down onto the cold tile floor, still gripping that note like it might disappear if I let go. This couldn't be real. Marcus. My Marcus. The man who brought me coffee in bed every Sunday morning? Who planned surprise date nights and remembered my favorite flowers? Who cried at our wedding because he said he couldn't believe how lucky he was? That Marcus wanted me dead? No, there had to be a mistake. Maybe Rosa misunderstood. Maybe someone was pretending to be Marcus. Maybe this was all some horrible confusion. But then my brain started working again, and the pieces began falling into place. The tea. That stupid herbal tea he'd been so insistent about for the past 6 months. Every single night, he'd make it for me. He'd watch me drink it, sitting right there on the couch beside me. If I said I was too tired or didn't want it, he'd get this look on his face. Not angry, but disappointed. Hurt, even. He'd say things like, "I'm just trying to help you feel better," or, "I researched this blend specifically for you," and I'd feel guilty, so I'd drink it. All of it. Every drop. The nausea. The weight loss. The exhaustion that made it hard to think straight some days. The hair falling out in the shower. My doctor said it was anxiety. But what if it wasn't? What if I'd been poisoned this whole time, slowly, carefully, while my husband kissed me goodnight and told me he loved me? I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and typed in the search bar. Slow poisoning symptoms. The results loaded, and my stomach dropped. Fatigue. Check. Digestive problems and nausea. Check. Unexplained weight loss. Check. Hair thinning. Check. Confusion and difficulty concentrating. Check. Every single symptom I'd been experiencing for months was right there on the screen. I stood up so fast I got dizzy. I ran to the kitchen and started digging through the trash. There it was, the empty box from the tea Marcus had been making me. Some organic blend with a name I couldn't even pronounce. The brand was something I'd never heard of. I looked it up on my phone. The company didn't exist. The website was gone. There were no reviews, no social media presence, nothing. It was like the tea had been made specifically to disappear without a trace. My chest felt tight. I couldn't breathe right. This was real. This was actually happening. My husband had been trying to kill me, and I'd been letting him do it. I'd been drinking poison and thanking him for taking care of me. Then I remembered something else. A few months ago, Marcus had suddenly become very interested in updating our life insurance policies. He said we needed better coverage, that we were getting older and should be responsible. I'd signed the papers without really reading them. I trusted him. He was a financial advisor. This was his job. But now I needed to know what I'd signed. I found the policy documents in his office filing cabinet. My life insurance was $800,000. Marcus was the sole beneficiary. 800,000 reasons for him to want me dead. I heard the garage door open. Marcus was home from the gym. I could hear him walking through the house, his gym bag hitting the floor in the hallway. "Honey, I'm home." His voice was cheerful, normal, like he hadn't just spent the last 6 months slowly murdering me. "I'll make your tea." I shoved the note deep into my jeans pocket, closed the filing cabinet as quietly as I could, and forced myself to walk into the kitchen. I had to act normal. I had to pretend everything was fine, because if he knew that I knew, I didn't know what he'd do. Maybe he'd speed up the plan. Maybe he'd find another way. I couldn't let him see the terror on my face. So I smiled. It felt like my face was cracking apart, but I smiled. "Hey babe, how was the gym?" That night was the longest night of my life. Marcus made the tea just like he always did. I watched him move around the kitchen, boiling the water, dropping in the tea bag, adding a little honey the way I liked it. He was humming. Actually, humming like this was just another normal Tuesday evening. He brought the mug over to me on the couch, kissed the top of my head, and sat down next to me. "Drink up, sweetheart. You look tired." His hand rubbed my shoulder gently, and I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the mug in his face and run, but instead, I lifted it to my lips and pretended to sip. I made a small sound like I was swallowing, but I didn't let any of the liquid touch my mouth. When he looked away to grab the TV remote, I lowered the mug quickly. For the next hour, I sat there pretending to drink that tea while we watched some show I couldn't even focus on. Every few minutes, I'd lift the mug and fake another sip. My heart was racing so fast I thought he'd hear it. When he finally got up to use the bathroom, I ran to the kitchen sink and poured the whole thing down the drain, running the water to wash away any trace. Then I rinsed the mug and put it in the dishwasher like I always did. When Marcus came back, I yawned and said I was exhausted, that I was going to bed early. He smiled at me, that same loving smile I'd fallen for 9 years ago, and said, "Sleep well, my love." I didn't sleep at all that night. I lay in bed next to him, listening to him breathe, watching the rise and fall of his chest in the darkness. This man sleeping peacefully beside me had been trying to kill me. The thought kept repeating in my head like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. How long had he been planning this? Had he ever really loved me? Or was I always just a payday waiting to happen? I stared at the ceiling until the sun came up, making plans. The next morning, after Marcus left for work, I became a detective in my own home. I went straight to his laptop. He kept it password protected, but I knew the code. It was our wedding date. The irony made me sick. I opened his browser history and started scrolling back through the past few months. What I found made my blood run cold. 4 months ago, he'd searched for untraceable poisons. Then, how to make death look natural. Then, life insurance payout timeline. And how long do insurance investigations take? There were dozens of searches, all carefully researched, all planning my death like it was just another financial investment he was managing. I kept digging. In his email, I found messages to someone named Jay. The subject lines were vague, but when I opened them, my stomach turned. The plan is moving forward. Just need to be patient a little longer. Another one said, "She's getting sicker. Won't be much longer now." And then one from 2 weeks ago that said, "Having second thoughts. This is harder than I expected." The person named Jay had responded, "Don't lose your nerve now. We've come too far. Think about the money. Think about our future." Our future. He was planning a future with someone else, and I was the obstacle that needed to be removed. I took photos of everything with my phone. Every search, every email, every piece of evidence I could find. Then I called the one person I knew I could trust completely. My sister Jenna. She's a family law attorney in Seattle, tough as nails and smarter than anyone I know. When she answered, I couldn't even get the words out at first. My voice just broke. Jenna, I need help. Marcus is trying to kill me. There was a long silence on the other end. Then her voice came through, sharp and focused. Tell me everything, right now. I told her about the note from Rosa, the tea, the searches, the emails, all of it. When I finished, Jenna didn't hesitate. Sarah, you need to go to the police right now, today, this minute. But I stopped her. I knew Marcus too well. He was careful, methodical, always 3 steps ahead. If I went to the police without concrete proof, he'd destroy the evidence. He'd hire expensive lawyers and make me look like the crazy one. He'd say I was paranoid, mentally unstable, that the stress had gotten to me. I could already hear him in court, playing the concerned husband worried about his sick wife's delusions. I needed more than browser history and forwarded emails. I needed him to confess or make a mistake I could prove. Jenna understood. She's a lawyer. She knows how these things work. Okay, she said. Then we build a case. But Sarah, you have to be smart about this. You have to stay safe. She overnighted me a small voice-activated recording device that same day. It arrived the next morning in unmarked packaging. I planted that recording device inside a decorative plant on the kitchen counter, right near where Marcus always made the tea. For the next 3 days, I played the part of the perfect, unsuspecting wife. Every night, he made the tea. Every night, I pretended to drink it and poured it down the bathroom sink when he wasn't looking. And something strange started happening. I began to feel better. The fog in my brain started to lift. My stomach didn't hurt as much. I had more energy. It was like my body was waking up from a nightmare. And that's when I knew for sure. The tea had been poisoning me this whole time. By day 5, I couldn't wait anymore. I had the recording device ready. I had my phone positioned on the dinner table, face down like it was charging, but the voice recorder was running. Jenna had coached me on exactly what to say, how to push him into admitting the truth. That night at dinner, I decided to force his hand. We were eating the pasta he'd made, and I kept my voice casual, almost light. I went to the salon today. Rosa said the strangest thing to me. I watched Marcus carefully. His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. He didn't look at me right away, just stared at his plate for a second too long. Then he put the fork down slowly and asked, "What did she say?" His voice sounded normal, but I could see the tension in his jaw. I leaned back in my chair and shrugged. She asked if I was feeling okay, said you'd been asking her questions about me, about my health. It seemed weird. The silence that followed felt heavy, like the air had turned thick. Marcus cleared his throat and picked up his water glass. I ran into her at the coffee shop last month, just making small talk. You know how chatty Rosa is. She probably misunderstood something I said. The lie came out smooth, practiced, but I saw his hand shaking slightly when he set the glass back down. I leaned forward, looking him straight in the eyes. That's funny, Marcus, because she seemed really concerned. Actually, she seemed scared. Is there something you want to tell me? The words hung between us. He stared at me for what felt like forever, and I could see something shifting in his face. The mask was cracking. Then, something I didn't expect happened. Marcus started crying. Not fake tears, but real, gut-wrenching sobs. He put his face in his hands and his whole body shook. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry. My heart was pounding. I didn't move. I just sat there, waiting. He looked up, at me, tears streaming down his face, and the words started pouring out. I got into trouble, bad trouble. I made some investments with client money that I shouldn't have. Risky stuff. It all fell apart. I'm going to lose everything. My license, my reputation, the house, everything. I'll probably go to jail. He wiped his face with his hands, his voice breaking. The insurance money would have saved me. If something happened to you, if it looked natural, like you just got sick, I could pay everyone back. I could fix this. I thought I could do it. I thought if it happened slowly enough, no one would question it. He looked at me like he wanted forgiveness, like he wanted me to understand. But I couldn't go through with it, Sarah. I stopped putting it in the tea 2 weeks ago. I swear to you, I couldn't kill you. I love you. I've been trying to figure out another way to fix the money problem. I just needed time. The room went completely silent. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just this cold, empty feeling in my chest. I let him finish, let him think maybe I believed him. Then I spoke, and my voice came out like ice. You stopped 2 weeks ago? That's interesting, Marcus, because I've been dumping that poison down the drain for the past 5 days. I know everything, Rosa told me. I have the contaminated tea saved. I have your search history. I have your emails to Jay, whoever that is. And I have you on recording right now, confessing to trying to murder me for insurance money. I held up my phone. The color drained from his face completely. He looked like he might pass out. Sarah, no. Please. We can work this out. I'll turn myself in. I'll get help. Just don't do this. Please. He stood up so fast, his chair fell backward and crashed on the floor. That's when the front door opened. 2 police detectives walked into the house. Jenna had called them an hour before dinner, and they'd been waiting outside the whole time, listening to everything through the wire I was wearing under my shirt. Marcus spun around, seeing the detectives, and then looked back at me. The betrayal on his face would have been funny if this whole thing wasn't so horrible. You set me up, he whispered. One of the detectives stepped forward with handcuffs. Marcus Bennett, you're under arrest for attempted murder. I stood up from the table and looked at my husband, really looked at him, maybe for the first time in months. You held my hand while you poisoned me. You kissed me goodnight while planning my funeral. There's nothing to work out. We're done. The detective read him his rights while putting on the handcuffs, and Marcus just kept staring at me, tears still running down his face, like he couldn't believe this was really happening. They walked him out of the house, and I stood there in the kitchen, alone, surrounded by the ruins of the life I thought I had. The next few months were a blur of police statements, lab tests, and court proceedings. The tea was sent to a forensic lab, and the results came back exactly like I feared. Arsenic, small doses, carefully measured to build up in my system over time, without triggering immediate suspicion. The medical examiner said if I'd kept drinking it for another month, maybe 6 weeks, the damage to my organs would have been irreversible. I would have died, and it probably would have looked like natural causes. Some mysterious illness the doctors couldn't quite figure out. Marcus had researched it perfectly. What he didn't count on was Rosa's conscience being stronger than $15,000. The trial took almost a year. Marcus hired expensive lawyers who tried every angle they could think of. They claimed he was mentally unstable, that the financial pressure had caused a breakdown, that he never actually went through with it, so it shouldn't count as attempted murder. But the evidence was overwhelming. Rosa testified about Marcus approaching her, offering her money to poison me. The emails to Jay, who turned out to be his mistress of 8 months named Jessica, showed clear intent and planning. She knew about everything and had encouraged him to go through with it. The recorded confession sealed it. In the end, Marcus was sentenced to 18 years in prison for attempted murder and embezzlement. Jessica got 5 years as an accessory. I sat in that courtroom and watched the man I'd promised to spend my life with get led away in handcuffs, and I felt absolutely nothing. The love I had for him had died the moment I read Rosa's note. My body recovered faster than my mind did. I spent 2 months in chelation therapy to remove the arsenic from my system. The doctors were amazed at how much I'd been exposed to. They said my liver and kidneys showed signs of damage, but that with treatment and time, I'd likely make a full recovery. The nausea stopped. My energy came back. I gained the weight back, and my hair started growing in thick again. Physically, I started to feel like myself, but emotionally, I was shattered. I couldn't sleep in my own house anymore. Every room held memories of Marcus, of the life we'd built together, of the lies I'd been living. I put the house on the market and sold it within 3 weeks. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I moved to Seattle to be near Jenna. She helped me find a therapist who specialized in trauma and betrayal. Those therapy sessions saved my life in a different way than Rosa's note did. I had to process the fact that someone I loved, someone I trusted completely, had looked me in the eyes every day while slowly killing me. That kind of betrayal breaks something inside you. My therapist told me it was okay to be angry, okay to grieve, okay to feel whatever I needed to feel. It took months before I could even think about dating again, and honestly, I'm still not sure I'm ready. The idea of trusting someone that deeply again terrifies me. Rosa and I stayed close through everything. She testified at the trial, even though it meant reliving the fear she'd felt when Marcus approached her. After it was all over, I asked her why she'd taken the risk of warning me. She could have just walked away, pretended Marcus never said anything, stayed out of the whole mess. Rosa looked at me with those kind eyes and said, "I have a daughter your age." I kept thinking, what if someone knew she was in danger and said nothing? I couldn't live with myself. Some things are more important than staying safe. I helped Rosa expand her salon as a thank you. She hired 2 more stylists and moved to a bigger location. We still meet for coffee every week. She's not just my hairstylist anymore. She's family. Starting over in Seattle was hard, but it was also freeing. I launched my own marketing consultancy and threw myself into work. I made new friends who didn't know my story, who just knew me as Sarah, not as the woman whose husband tried to kill her. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. Not the same person I was before. I'll never be her again, but someone stronger. Someone who doesn't ignore red flags or dismiss gut feelings. Someone who knows that evil doesn't always look like a monster in the dark. If you've made it this far in my story, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Your support means everything to me. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The way Marcus isolated me from friends over the years, always with reasonable excuses. The way he controlled our finances even though I made good money. The way he'd get upset if I questioned him about anything. I'd written it all off as normal marriage stuff. Little compromises you make when you love someone. But they weren't compromises. They were control. And that control almost killed me. I keep Rosa's note framed on my wall in my apartment, not because I want to remember Marcus or what he did, but because I want to remember what Rosa did. In a world where it's easier to look the other way, to not get involved, to protect yourself first, she chose differently. She chose courage. She chose to save a life even though it could have put her own at risk. That piece of paper represents everything good that still exists in people. The lesson I learned isn't just about trusting the wrong person. It's about trusting the right ones. It's about listening when someone tells you they're concerned. It's about believing people when they show you who they really are, even when it hurts. Marcus showed me who he was in 100 small ways before he ever put poison in my tea. I just didn't want to see it. I wanted to believe in the fairy tale, in the perfect marriage, in the happy ending. But real life isn't a fairy tale. Real life is messy and complicated. And sometimes the person sleeping next to you is the most dangerous person in your world. I'm Sarah Bennett, and I survived the man who promised to love me in sickness and in health. He just tried to make sure the sickness part came a lot sooner. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. And every morning I wake up, I'm grateful for a stranger's bravery and a slip of paper that changed everything. Trust your instincts, believe people who warn you, and never, ever ignore the signs. Your life might depend on it.